You're listening to My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 153. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. I am so excited for today's guest. She's an author, podcaster, publisher, entrepreneur, bookfluencer, and mother of four. She's none other than Zibby Owens, host, creator of Moms Don't Have Time to Read, author of Bookends, the publisher at Zibby Books, and so much more. The list goes on and on. So for someone who doesn't have time to a bunch of other things, she's made time to launch a career when she turned 39 and then some. We actually both launched our podcast in 2018, and she has taken off to create what I would call an empire, Zibby Owens Media. I had a client introduce me to who Zibby is about a year ago. And Zibby's podcast has authors that she interviews and she reads their books. And this is something that goes on daily. So I was totally intrigued on how she manages to get through these books. And then I picked up Zibby's own book, Bookends, which was released in July. It is the story of her life, ultimately, and a lot of losses that she's endured. But she allows you to see into her love life and how she fell in love with her husband, Kyle. And it's a great story. It starts off with him being her son's tennis coach. And then it evolves into what is now a terrific love story. She shares their journey of falling in love and what that was like, because at the time, Zibby was married with 4 children. And so this wasn't something she was looking for. But ultimately, and you're going to hear from her and hear the smile in her voice when she shares that finding and meeting Kyle and experiencing this kind of love, this wasn't something that she thought was possible at age 39 with 4 children, but it was and it is. So I'm excited for you to hear Zibby's story from her and to just get this insight as to what it's been like to launch this new business that she never intended to launch, but how fulfilling it's become and how hopeful any of us can be to launch something new and exciting, whether it's a business or falling in love, once you hit 40 and later, because life is certainly nowhere near over when you hit 40. Hi, Zibby.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. We're excited, and yet we're both getting the news of Queen Elizabeth. So it's like a downer, but we're going to cheer each other up, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Sure. I'm Zibby Owens, and I am the host of the podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, which ended up enabling me to go into all these different areas I never thought I would do, like starting a publishing company called Zibby Books, and we're launching a magazine, and I have a book club, and I don't know, so many other things. And I'm an author. Sorry. And I've edited 2 anthologies. I wrote a children's book called Princess Charming. My memoir, Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, came out on July 1st. And I am writing a novel that I hope I can finish by March.
You'll do it. I have faith in you because I'm writing my first book. And when you sit down, like I know you're sitting down and doing it for like 5 hours at a time, you will crank it out.
Yeah. It's just a matter of stopping all the other things I'm doing. But yes,
right.
I should do that. Yeah.
When I picked up your book, I had no idea that we both launched stuff in 2018. So I felt very connected and yet slightly disappointed that you had gotten so much further than I have.
Oh, please. It's just been crazy. I don't even When I started, I was researching all these other podcasters. I was like, millions of downloads. How on earth are they doing that? Like how? I don't even know.
And yet it happens. I'm always amazed that people are listening. And that's what makes me keep going. I'm like, oh, we're hitting, there was like 10,000. It was slow growth. And then all of a sudden it was like 20,000. Holy crap, there was 30,000. It just all of a sudden it happens and you keep going. And I do mine for selfish reasons, like getting to meet you. I'm like, I don't care who's listening. I get to talk to Zibby, and this is a highlight for me. So what is it that you love most about the podcast? What does it give you?
It's the same thing. I love doing it. I love my conversations with the authors and getting to know them. It's amazing. It's also the only time where I can just focus on one thing, right? No interruptions, no phone, no kids. Like everyone actually respects when I'm on a podcast and doesn't bother me.
Isn't that funny?
Right? I don't know why. I should just lie about it, but I don't. But anyway, and I get so much out of the connection with other people. Like I don't go out to coffees that much anymore with friends because now I'm so busy with this podcast and everything else. But I feel like, you were saying you feel like we're friends already because you read my book. And I really do feel that sense with a lot of people whose books I read and even people who've read my book. So there's just something so wonderful about having these conversations and getting to know people as a grown-up and people all over the world, all different types of people. It's amazing. I learn stuff every day. I love the books. It's a dream job. It's a total dream job.
You took the words out of my mouth because I actually put down notes. I usually don't do notes before an interview, but I have in my head, what I want to talk about. And in my notes, it says, talk about how she created a dream job for herself. Because to me, I am a book lover through and through. When I was a youngin', I had all the Teenage Babysitters Club books. I was always reading. My daughter's the same way. I'm still the same way. But now I've picked up that I can read 2 or 3 books at a time, which baffles me because a year or 2 ago, I would have never said that. And then to get to talk to the authors, it's to me, that's like a celebrity thing, no matter who it is. I think that putting so much love and time and effort into a book is such an incredible thing. And to write more specifically novels and fiction, that baffles me. Because I can write my own personal story, no problem. But those who are able to create characters and follow them and storylines, that blows me away.
Yeah. I don't even know how I'm trying to do that myself. The characters are coming easily. The dialogue is so easy. It's just the plot.
And the plot thickens. No.
Yeah, exactly. No, I have so much respect for authors. I just idolize them. I and for so long, I think about my whole life and all the books that have marked my journey here on this planet, right? And these leaders, they've been leading the way for me, all of these authors, and to have a chance to talk to them all in person and have my whole life sort of revolve around what I can do to help authors, what they're like, getting to know them. It's amazing. And authors are so much more accessible than I ever imagined. I mean, I used to write letters as a kid to select authors, like fan mail. And it's like now on Instagram or email, like authors are there. They're desperate for people to, no, I'm kidding. But, a note from a reader who loved your book is like the greatest thing. So.
And isn't that funny? Because I'll have people ask me, well, how did you get, so-and-so on your podcast? I'm like, well, I asked, how did you get the book? I asked. It's purely as simple as that because authors want to have these conversations and get their names out there. That's what I love most about podcasts too.
Yep.
Let's talk about your book because you share everything. And I feel like you really put yourself out there by sharing your love story. And it's so sweet. And I will admit, so I am a stalker. Everybody who knows me, all my clients know I'm a stalker. So I did some Google image searches on you.
Okay.
And your smile today is genuinely just a bigger, happier, there's a difference in you. And so obviously you made the right choice with Kyle. And I just wanted to say that because I did stalk and I looked you up.
Actually, so many people told me when I had gotten together with Kyle that they'd never seen me so happy, that finally Kyle looked at me and he's like, "What did you used to look like?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I literally like started pulling out these photo albums to be like, "What did I look like before?" So
You looked happy, but there's a glow. There's certainly a glow. And to have gotten to read your love story, I mean, that's so personal that, most people don't share in such a way that's truthful. And you're like, here's how it was. This is what happened. I fell in love with my tennis coach. And it's working. It's working out beautifully. You both look so happy. And I love that. What made you want to share all of this?
What made me want to share all of this? The love story part, I think I wanted to share that part the most because I didn't think I'd ever have this at this point in my life. I fell in love again at age 39, and I kind of thought my life was set for good. And when I had gotten together with Kyle on our very first vacation, we went to Puerto Rico, and I was at the s'mores station because I love making s'mores. And it was me and all the kids with their parents and, me. And this mom was there, and she was so stressed out with her kids. Her husband wasn't helping. The kids were like screaming. She was so disheveled and exhausted. And I was like glowing and so happy and like couldn't keep my hands up, Kyle, and whatever. And she like looked over at me and she was like, "Oh, what I wouldn't give for just 1 minute of that." And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like this, I'm like more like you. This just happened to me. So I think I shared it to say that we only live once. And I'm not saying I advocate divorce for everybody, but I think in certain situations, it's important to keep in mind that you don't always have to stay in a situation if it's not the right situation for you, and that there is an alternate path, no matter how difficult it might be. So I just wanted the people who needed to hear that to hear that.
Well, and I think it also needs to be said that it's beneficial for your children in a way. I know that divorce is not beneficial for children. My husband has been divorced, and I've got 2 stepkids. So I've seen what divorce does to 2 children, but I also see what it does to show them what 2 people who love each other, are friends, want to be together, get along, looks like as well, and how to set that example, and to show them that you deserve happiness, you deserve love, you deserve to live your life. Sets the example for them not to, live in a life that they think they're stuck in when they grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing, it's hard to know necessarily when you're in your 20s what's right for you forever.
Oh, yeah.
Or even if you know it, what are the odds you actually find it?
We shouldn't do anything in our 20s.
True.
Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, you shouldn't choose a career. You shouldn't choose a life partner because you grow. And I remember somebody telling me this, you grow the most in your 20s. And it's so absolutely true that I think in my 30s is when I was like, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we got this. Yeah. So, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, no, I was married by 28. I had kids, I had twins by 30. I don't know. I know that's not that young, but now I'm like, how did I do all that? Of course, then I had the energy. I could bend without everything cracking and whatever. But anyway.
Well, and then in the book, you also share about what it was like to raise your kids, be, the fully present stay-at-home mom, where you were doing a million things. I was getting tired reading all the things that you were doing with them and running around, and to realize later on that there's something more for you to do, that there's this podcast, there's a publishing company, which is so exciting and takes everything to a whole new level, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. When did that transition happen that you were like, oh, you know what, maybe being a stay-at-home mom just isn't everything. Once again, there's something more for me.
Yeah. I mean, it happened after I got divorced and I had free time again to remember even who I was. I had every other weekend for a long weekend as our arrangement, and I had time to read and write and sleep and think and try to figure out sort of part 2 of life. And I didn't know it would lead to all this. I honestly was just trying to sell a book at first. I just wanted to sell a book. I've been trying to sell a book for so long. It had been my life goal. And I didn't have a platform or anything like that. And so I had to get on social media, and they were like, someone was like, start a podcast and whatever. I had no idea. It's amazing I was just presenting to like 30 salespeople for my podcast network the people who sell my ads, and like telling them my whole story, which even though I've been working with them for a long time, I had never really presented myself. And I'm like, my whole life is thanks to this podcast. It's so crazy. But I didn't start it thinking it would ever lead to anything like that. My goal was that I would just get listeners, but like, it didn't occur to me that all these things would just, it's like a carpet unfolding. Like I can't see at the end of the carpet, but I always can see just like what I need to do next. And I just keep following it along.
At what point did the red carpet start to roll? Like, how far were you into the podcast that you were like, oh shit, this is going to be something big?
A couple months after I started, actually not even a couple months, a couple of weeks after I started it, I had Dani Shapiro on as a guest, and the author, and she mentioned that I should consider doing some in-person salons, like in my apartment, that other people were doing that. And it was really fun when she had been a guest at those, and she would be happy to be a guest. So I had my first salon with her, and I did a book fair. And that is when I knew that I had something like really exciting going on, when so many people showed up and bought books, and my living room was like packed to the gills with people eager to hear this conversation I was moderating between Dani and this author named Piper Weiss. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really awesome. Because a podcast seems like when you think about it, you don't think about all the in-person community at work, but it is at work. You just don't always see it. So once I could see it in front of me, it was just really vibrant and exciting.
And you work so hard with your show and with reading all of the books. I want to talk about how you managed to read all of the books, because
I do not read all of the books. I at least skim most of the books. I read some of the books, some percentage I read start to finish slowly. Like I used to read. But I have like another style of reading when I'm actually reading for prepping purposes. And I can speed read essentially a book in like anywhere from half an hour to an hour and get everything I need out of the whole thing. Sometimes even 15 minutes.
You get a lot out. I know.
You get a lot out. I'm sure you probably did this with my book. So,
I read your full book. I did. There was no skimming.
No, it's okay. But it's okay. I feel like even books that I've skimmed, I've taken the time to like sit with and analyze, and like I know everything that happened, and I've gotten to know the author, and I still get everything. I just may have missed some of the words. So I still feel like I've gotten a lot of the benefit out of the books and can have an intelligent conversation about them. And, I just physically don't have time to read them all. So I do my best. And I'm scaling back a little in that I got some guest hosts to help me out this fall, because I literally overscheduled myself so much that I was like, this is not physically possible, especially given that like 60% of my energy is, maybe 50% is going to the publishing house. So I scaled back that way, and I've like forced myself to not take on too many more until I can get through some of these. And I have like dozens and dozens that I haven't even released yet. So I don't know.
Well, and I know that your skimming works, because when I first heard about you, it was through a client who was a guest. And I said, it was Jenny Nash, the book coach.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I go, does she really read all the books? And she goes, oh, whatever she did with mine, she knew it. She had her stuff down. I went, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I do take I read the books of the authors that come on, and I know how much time and energy that goes into. But to hear it firsthand from a guest, I was like, okay, yeah.
No, I'm prepared. And if it's a book, sometimes I have authors on, it's not the book that I'm like as not that I'm not excited about, but there's something about the author story that I really want to hear, or something about them that I am just dying to know more about, or get to know, or whatever. So in that case, my conversations, and conversations are organic things. You're not always in control of a conversation. I guess you're supposed to be on a podcast, but I like to just like have the conversations go. See, I don't know. So some episodes are not as much deep dives into the actual book, and some are more like this. Earlier today, I interviewed Vanessa Riley, and I'm like, I want to hear about this 26-year-old marriage of yours and why you guys are still smiling. Can we please analyze this? Like, how do you do that? That was really interesting to me. So.
And I agree. I don't like to I like to pretend I have a direction for an interview, but then I say wherever it goes, I'm more than happy to, because I think that's how it should go. Just as if we were meeting on the street and we're like, hey, what's going on? Chatting it up. And so, yeah, I love that. And it doesn't have to be focused on the book, but I want to mention the book so that way we can sell it for you,
Right.
That's the goal. But I think that ultimately to get to know the other person, that's the fun part.
Agreed.
So in regards to Zibby Books, what kind of books are you publishing? Are you looking for?
We are publishing upmarket commercial book club fiction and memoir, which basically means really good books. We're publishing books that will not put you to sleep at night, books that keep you turning pages, have a strong sense of voice, a strong sense of place. They make you think and feel. They make you feel connected. And they're all different types of books. So our first book is called My What If Year by Alicia Fernandez Miranda. And she was a 40-year-old CEO of a philanthropic advisory fund with 2 kids. And she decided she would take a year off to pursue all the careers she always wished and wondered what it would have been like to do. So she took a year off and did 4 internships in those fields. And she's hilarious and wrote all about it. And then the next one is called Women Are the Fiercest Creatures. And that's about a male tech CEO and the women in his life who have not been treated fairly, and on the cusp of the IPO end up banding together to make changes and things like, so there are some thrillers. Well, not really thrillers. There's one like psychological suspense, I guess you call it. There's this book, Super Bloom, which is hilarious, about a massage therapist at a Vermont spa who ends up collaborating with this romance author, and they get into all sorts of hijinks. And so I don't know. They're books that my whole team has to love when we're reading. Like, we all have to be like, yes, this 100%, and then we'll acquire a book.
And I'm sure that people are jumping at the chance now that you're publishing books. So you're probably inundated to a ridiculous amount, just as with the podcast. I can only imagine.
Yes. I wonder which I'm getting more pitches for. Still probably the podcast.
Well, give it a minute.
Yeah. But we're only doing 12 a year, and we've acquired 22 books already. So, and we have like, honestly, 6 more in various stages of either will you take another stab at this and get back to us, or we're waiting for something from someone or whatever. So we're doing fine. We can't take on that much more. I mean, we're always looking for great stuff, and we'll find ways. But yeah, but it's
You'll just
definitely
have to expand more.
It's definitely a lot of work. Oh my gosh, we cannot do anymore. We have this amazing team, and I love the people on my team so much. But it's taken a little bit to get here, and we're all like so busy.
Did you ever think that it would come the day where you're basically famous? Like, famous people know who you are. No, famous people know who you are. You talk to famous people. Like, you're a big deal, Zibby.
You think famous people knowing who I am makes me famous?
No, but people know who you are. You're getting out there. Moms know who you are. You're a persona. People know who you are. And so, yeah, I would consider you a famous person,
My kids will be thrilled to hear that. My kids are like, Mom, are you famous? And I'm like, no, sorry, guys.
See, and my kids think anyone who has a book is famous. So when yours arrived in the mail, I had read it on my Kindle already, but my daughter goes, let me see her picture. Who? Oh, okay. I like her hair. And what's her name? Like Zibby Owens. Oh, yes. You've talked about her. Okay. Well, good luck with that. But they think that anyone who's written a book is a famous person. And I have taught them that if you get a book signed by the author, that's your treasure. So they know, like, I've gotten yours isn't signed yet, but we will meet someday and it will be signed.
Sorry about that.
No, life goals. I will get to the Hamptons to get it signed.
Where are you based? Where are you
I'm in
now?
San Jose, California.
Oh, okay.
So you can tell Kyle, the West Coast.
I'm in LA a lot. I'm in LA frequently, so I'm sure it's not too far.
It's a 45-minute flight, yes. And I know that Kyle will want to, surf and whatnot. And let's talk about his stuff for a second, too, because I know that in the book you mentioned that, he was a tennis coach, but he had these aspirations as well that all came to fruition. And with the song and the car and the tears, I mean, I feel like I was right there with you.
So crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. When I met him, he was, he had been not only like a tennis pro in the traditional sense, but also had coached women on the WTA tour. He had been a tournament director. He had run whole programs and was kind of getting to the end of his tennis career. He had just started he said he walked on the court one day and was just like, oh my gosh, I don't love this anymore. And he had never felt that way. He had never for a minute. And he played all day, every day for years. Crazy. But as we were getting to know each other, he was like, I really want to end up in entertainment. And I'm like, yeah, okay, good luck with that. Like that's not going to happen. What else do you want to do? Like, yeah, I was trying to be like, what do you think about real estate? Or I don't know, something more achievable that had a path. Because he was very much like, it's all just going to happen organically. And I'm like, that is not the way the world works. You have to make a plan and set the path and then do it. And it turns out, and he was like, no, this is how it's always worked for me. And I'm like, all right, good luck. Next thing you know, I mean, not next thing, he started his business when I started my business, but through random meetings and tennis, people he met on the tennis court and like he's literally on a flight now on the way to the Toronto Film Festival where his first movie, Wildflower, is premiering. And it's already been picked by the Hollywood Reporter as one of the 10 buzziest films at TIFF, at Toronto Film Festival.
It's amazing.
It's so crazy. It's like, this never happens. All these things that are happening, like, never happen. I feel like there's just, and he just welcomed it all in and has like great instincts and is very patient. None of these things I think are true for me. I am the opposite of patient. My next thing I really want to do, well, I'm launching this magazine site very soon, but after that, I really want to start opening a bookstore or two. And so I've been looking at different spots, and the broker I talked to was like, well, if you're patient, you could get this spot. And I've already emailed him like 20 times. I'm like, actually, I'm not patient. So
we have a bookstore in San Jose. It's a children's bookstore that just went up for sale. Oh. And I'm like, oh, my husband goes, no. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should start with a pop-up or something.
Oh, that would be fun. You could do multiple pop-ups and Yeah.
I need to focus on the things I've already started. I really love starting things. I love coming up with ideas and starting things. And I have to
I loved how you jumped right into Kyle's family's business. You were like, oh, I'll do this part. No problem. Let me help you with this part. And that tends to be how you are. I feel like I'm very much the same way. I'm like, oh, let me jump into the PTA. Let me just fix that for you. Let me just do this for you. And, we have a mayoral campaign going on. I'm like, you guys, you really need to focus on this over here. Let me just help you with this.
Yeah. You're probably right. You're probably right. Sometimes it takes somebody who's like a step back to see all the issues clearly. I don't know. I'm like that too. Yeah.
What else is on the list then besides pop-ups and bookstores? What more can you do with books?
Let's see. So I'm launching Zibby Mag, an online, what are we calling it? A literary lifestyle destination. And I'm really excited about that. It's going to be like the town and country of the literary world. And it's a way to like bring back the glamour of being an author. And so we'll have essays like we used to have on Moms Don't Have Time to Write. We'll have a whole book talk section with excerpts and book reviews and things like that. We'll have a gathering section for virtual book club, writing community, retreats that we're going to start doing in person, virtual classes that we're offering. And then we're doing what I'm most excited about. It's called the Lit Lifestyle section, where I'll take a photo of, say, Danny Shapiro from that event I was saying, one of my first events, and I'll put it up and we'll make it look like kind of like a magazine spread and say, you know, it's October. Did you know that Danny Shapiro has a new book coming out? Here's a picture of her at Zibby's retreat, at Zibby's house, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't you just love her top? Buy one just like it here and click here for this. Also, like, listen to Danny's podcast with Zibby and buy her new book right here. You know, and maybe an excerpt from the podcast transcript or something like that. So just getting people, and then another picture of her from like the Penn Gala where I saw her. So like almost like just like feature spreads. And I've had 1,300 podcast guests so far. And I've done so many professional photos of like events that I've gone to or that I've hosted over time. So even just with the stuff that's happened in the past, I have enough for so many features. And then thinking about going forward. So I'm really excited about that. My novel, as I mentioned, it's called Blank, and that's supposed to come out in summer of 2024, but I'm much more focused on the ones that I'm launching with Zibby Books. And then you never know. I mean, this morning I was like, I should write a book. My son's tooth fell out yesterday, and he was saying something about the tooth fairy this morning, and I was like, can you imagine being married to the tooth fairy? Like, that would be such a terrible thing. Like, she's jetting off every night into other people's bedrooms. Like, you know? And I was like, I should write a book called I Married the Tooth Fairy. And it could be like one of those funny Disney movies or something. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just like, I have ideas every day. I just don't have enough time.
I hope you're writing them all down. That's hilarious.
I should. I should write that down, actually.
You should write that. Yeah. If not, I'll just send you the transcript. I love it. I could literally just sit and chat with you all day long. I like you.
I like you too.
Can you share with everyone all the places that they can find you, or the easiest one that will direct them to everything else, please?
You can either go to Instagram at Zibby Owens or go to zibbyowens.com.
I love it.
And soon you can go to zibbymag.com and see our new site.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And the podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, the podcast on any podcast app. Yeah. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. And Bookends, go buy the book.
Oh, and Bookends. Go buy Bookends. Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature. And then if you get to the end, I include my email address, so I'll know if you actually got there or not.
And she answers, obviously.
Yeah, I answer. I love it. That's the highlight of my day, is getting those messages.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. You're having me. Thank you.
One of my favorite things about having this show and interviewing people that I've never met is to experience who they are on a one-on-one basis. And meeting Zibby, getting to talk to her face-to-face, even over a computer, was so terrific because she's genuinely a kind person. And I love that about her. I love that she doesn't think she's famous when I think she's a big deal. And as I shared, my kids think she's a big deal because she's got her picture on a book and she's become something that is big, not just with her book and her podcast, but in admitting that as moms, there's a lot of stuff going on for us, right? Having time to read a book, that can be really comical. But we can make that time. We can not only make the time to read a book, but we can make a time to launch a business. And ultimately, I personally think that moms, we can do anything we want to, anything we can put our minds to. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 kid or 4 kids like Zibby does. Take your time to read your book and find that time for yourself. I think that's an important lesson to learn from Zibby, is to not wait for that time when things do get quiet or for the every other weekend. Carve that space out for yourself now. Write if you want to. do the book reading, watch a TV show, do something that's going to further who you want to be and where you want to go. Let's not make the excuse that moms don't have time to do stuff, because we can make time for what we truly find important to us. Until next week, friends, I want you to carve out just 15 minutes to do something that you want to do. It doesn't have to be reading a book. It doesn't have to be working out. It can be truly whatever it is you want to do. 15 minutes. And I guarantee you can do that in the week that you have ahead of you. Let me know what it is you decide to do and how you did it. I want to hear from you. So let me know in the DMs or send me an email. I believe you can find those 15 minutes because you deserve it.